There is a structure on this planet that has been falling for more than 8 centuries, not crashing, not collapsing, not breaking apart, but slowly surrendering to gravity, year after year. Generation after generation. Century after century. It is not falling like a disaster, it is falling like a whisper. Like time itself pulling it downward, and for hundreds of years, the world did not rush to save it. People watched, they waited, they wondered, because everyone believed that one day, inevitably, it would reach the ground. This is not simply the story of a leaning tower. This is the story of human ambition, of pride carved into stone, of a city that tried to rise toward the heavens and discovered too late that the real danger was not above them. It was beneath them. Today, the tower looks elegant, white, light, almost weightless against the sky. But that shape was never designed. It was not drawn by an architect. It was not planned by engineers. It was not imagined by builders. It was born from a mistake. A mistake that slowly transformed into legend. Long before tourists, long before cameras, long before crowds and souvenirs, Pisa was a force, a powerful port city, a center of trade. A place where ships arrived heavy with wealth and ambition. In the Middle Ages, cities did not compete only with armies and gold. They competed with monuments, with architecture, with stone and marble and height, because buildings were not only structures, they were symbols, they were declarations of power. Declarations of faith, declarations of permanence. They said to the world, "We are here. We are strong, we will outlive you." In the heart of Pisa, a sacred complex was taking form. A cathedral already dominated the space, massive and luminous. A baptistry stood nearby, rising slowly, still incomplete. The air was filled with dust, stone, tools, voices, and movement. This was not a peaceful square, it was a living construction ground. A city building its identity with its own hands, and then Pisa made another decision. They would build a bell tower, not for decoration, not for beauty, but for authority. Because a bell tower is the voice of a city. It calls people to worship. It announces danger. It marks time. It commands space. So in the year 1173, the first stone was placed, and the dream began. But the earth beneath them was already preparing the betrayal. The ground under Pisa was not rock. It was not strong. It was not stable. It was soft soil, wet earth, compressed sediment. It looked solid, it felt reliable, it appeared trustworthy, but it was a lie, and nature never negotiates. As the tower began to rise, something unnatural appeared, not after years, not after generations, almost immediately. The structure began to tilt. At first, it was so small it could be denied. So slight it could be ignored. So subtle the human mind tried to explain it away. Maybe it was perspective, maybe it was the sun, maybe it was the angle of vision, but stone does not deceive. One side of the tower was sinking faster than the other. The builders faced a terrifying reality. The higher the tower rose, the more dangerous it became. But stopping was impossible, because stopping meant humiliation, stopping meant failure, stopping meant the world would see Pisa's mistake. So they continued, not with confidence, but with fear. The tower became a project that passed from generation to generation. Men laid stones knowing they would never see the end. Builders worked knowing their names would be forgotten. Hands shaped a future they would never witness. Wars interrupted the work, politics delayed it. Decades passed in silence, and in a strange twist of fate, those pauses saved the tower. The ground slowly settled, not enough to fix the problem, not enough to make it safe, but enough to allow construction to continue. When building resumed, the truth could no longer be ignored. The tower was already leaning, so they tried to fight the lean with design. They curved the structure in the opposite direction. They tried to correct it as they built. They tried to balance a falling giant. Every stone was a risk, every meter was a gamble, yet the tower continued to rise, slowly, painfully, uncertainly. And in 1372, nearly 2 centuries after the first stone was laid, the tower was finished, complete, and already broken. It should have fallen. Everything in nature said it should collapse. But it did not. Century after century, it remained standing, leaning, strained, unstable, but alive. And something strange happened. The flaw became the fame, not the height, not the design, not the symmetry. The imperfection, the mistake, the weakness, it became a monument not of perfection, but of resistance, a structure always close to collapse, yet never collapsing, but gravity never stops. Time never pauses, pressure never rests, by the modern age. The lean was no longer poetic, it was dangerous. In 1990, the tower was closed to the public. Because now the fall was no longer a legend, it was a possibility, and a new battle began. Not a medieval battle, a modern one. Engineers, scientists, and specialists surrounded the tower. Sensors measured every movement, instruments recorded every vibration, monitors tracked every millimeter. They were not trying to straighten it, they were not trying to make it normal. They were trying to save it without destroying what made it unique, so they worked on the earth itself. They removed soil slowly, grain by grain. They added counterweights. They stabilized the foundation, not violently, not aggressively, carefully, patiently, precisely. Like surgeons operating on a living body. And in 2001, the tower was declared stable, not perfect, not straight, but safe. And that is why this tower matters, not because it is beautiful, not because it is famous, not because it is old, but because it represents something deeper. It proves that perfection is not required for immortality. It proves that weakness does not cancel greatness. It proves that mistakes can become meaning. This tower did not become eternal because it was flawless. It became eternal because it refused to fall. Because it endured. Because it survived. Because it remained standing while everything pushed it toward collapse. This is not the story of a crooked tower. This is the story of a failure that became legend. A mistake that became identity. A weakness that became wonder. A fall that never happened. And a structure that has been falling for 800 years, yet still stands.